Alrighty, good evening folks. Meteorologist Evan Stewart here. We are tracking some strong thunderstorms that are moving through Hampton Roads right now and producing some flooding in parts of Hampton Roads as well. Let's go ahead and take you to live radar, show you what's going on across the area, and we do have a weather impact alert. We posted this yesterday. Last evening we were watching some of the information coming in, and there were the indications that there was the potential for some flooding with some slow-moving thunderstorms. It's something that we typically see in the cities. When we have these slow-moving storms, they can drop quite a bit of rain over a short period of time. You know, slow-moving storms can cause that urban flooding. You know, the cities are filled with concrete and cement, these impervious surfaces, and they can overwhelm the storm drains. You know, where you have land, where you have grass, where you have open surfaces, it can absorb some of that rain. It doesn't always do it. Obviously, we can get flooding in other areas as well, but certainly the concrete and the cement do not absorb, you know, any of that moisture, and that can lead, again, to the potential for some flooding. And we do have some flood advisories in the area now and some flash flood warnings. So let's take you through some of these warnings that we have out there this evening. First, we're going to begin with this large flash flood warning that's for the city of Chesapeake, a little bit of Chesapeake, mainly South Norfolk, Greenbrier, Indian River, down towards about Fentress and northern Virginia Beach. A little bit of Norfolk out towards the airport, but it certainly includes a good portion of Virginia Beach. And then in southern Virginia Beach in Chesapeake, we have a flood advisory. Now, the difference between an advisory and a warning is more severe. Flood advisory means there could be some flooding, you know, but a flood warning means that it's ongoing or is expected to start. And again, we have seen some very heavy rain. So those two warnings for Virginia Beach and Chesapeake, and a little bit of Norfolk, warning and an advisory. And then out towards the west, we have a flash flood warning for Isle of Wight County, Southampton, Surrey, and Sussex counties until 9:15. Just a little bit of each of those counties, pretty much where all the counties come together. Western Isle of Wight, southern Surrey, extreme northeastern Sussex, and extreme northern Southampton County. And then just to the west of that, we have a flood advisory for northern Sussex, a little bit of Surrey, and just a little bit of Prince George County. Again, because of the heavy rain that we have seen so far this evening. We'll go ahead and back things out, show you what's going on across the areas. We sort of set everything in motion. You can see how we've got a couple bands of these showers and storms. We had some pretty big thunderstorms that were down here along the Albemarle Sound a little bit earlier this evening, and they sort of redeveloped and fired up off towards the north. Then we had some of these storms up in central Virginia working their way southward, so kind of this convergence right across the south side where we see some of the heaviest rain falling. So let's zoom in, talk about some of the areas seeing the heaviest of the rain where we have that flood warning, as I mentioned. We'll get in where some of the heaviest of the rain is right now. So really from around Oak Grove, there is some heavy rain down towards Great Bridge and Grassfield, but it's really up towards Essex Meadows, South Norfolk, taking you up towards Foundation Park, Acredale, Kempsville, Mapleton, over towards Langley Oceana, which is right in there. The runways and stuff, so that's sort of that open area over by Bird Neck Road. And we still have that flood warning, a little bit of an update coming in from the National Weather Service. Let's see what it's saying on that. Flash flood warning remains in effect until 9:30. Doppler radar indicated between 2 and 3 inches of rain have fallen, and more rain is coming. This includes Kempsville, Regent University, Virginia Wesleyan, Princess Anne, Norfolk International, Princess Anne Plaza, Gallup's Corner, London Bridge, Oceana Bayside, Macon's Corner, Mount Pleasant, Greenbrier, Pungo, Rudy Heights, and North Virginia Beach. So that is one of the areas that we're seeing some of the heaviest of the rain. Let's take a look at the 3-hour rainfall total here. It'll take it a minute to populate. You know, there it's saying 0.6, 0.8. As we take a look at the 1-hour rainfall, that is a little bit of a better indication of some of the heaviest of the rain right now around Mapleton. So this is just within the past hour, and we were saying there was the potential for rainfall rates of 2 to 4 inches. And we have certainly seen here, just within the past hour, some of these rainfall totals coming in at around 2.2, 2.3 inches in southern Virginia Beach. So that's what we've seen in the past hour. That's why we have now the flash flood warning for that section of Virginia Beach. Take you back to the more traditional radar view. Head towards the south. You can see we have that flood advisory. The rainfall rates there over the last hour will not be as high. There's a little bit of a bullseye of 2 inches. One thing here about southern Chesapeake and southern Virginia Beach is it is much more rural. So you have more ditches. This is a area that certainly has a lot more farmland as opposed to, northern Virginia Beach, where it is, again, as we mentioned, all concrete. So that makes a difference as far as whether it's a weather, flash flood or a flood advisory or a flood warning like we're seeing here in northern Virginia Beach. So we head off towards the west. There is some heavy rain in southern Suffolk right now. You can see that here from Kingsdale over towards Somerton, Franklin Junction. Some very heavy rain, and that storm is sort of, we had a couple things going on with this. We had this outflow boundary. That's that line. Let me slow this down a little bit so you can see it a little bit more. So we had a thunderstorm earlier up in Isle of Wight County, and this line that you see here getting ready to come in, that is an outflow boundary. And a lot of times when outflow boundaries reach other storms, like these storms that were drifting up out of North Carolina, it can accentuate, the development, and you sort of get that convergence and that development here as we're seeing across southern Suffolk. Back here through Sussex County, a little bit of Surrey, Isle of Wight, and Southampton County where we have those other flood warnings. Let's take a look at those. There's a little red bullseye in there, getting close to 3 inches of rain. So again, that's why we have that flood warning for parts of northern Southampton County and southern Surrey County, just a little bit of Surrey County, a little bit of Isle of Wight County. Kind of give you an idea, again, here's the river that is the boundary between Southampton County and Isle of Wight County, and here's the county line. This is Sussex, this is Southampton, and this is Surrey County. So it does include just a little bit of Surrey County. It includes Wakefield around the National Weather Service site, the Virginia Diner, of course, and then as you head up towards Waverly under that flood advisory, again includes just a little bit there of Surrey County. Here's that county line. So this very little part, Ellis Fork, Dendron, so little parts there of Surrey County under this flood warning. And we also have some heavy rain coming in across the peninsula right now, and quite a bit of lightning as well. With this thunderstorm right now, a sort of meandering storm that extends here from James City County, York County. So here's the county line. So this is James City County, this is York County, right along the York River down towards Yorktown, the Coleman Bridge, and southern parts of Gloucester County. So this storm slowly drifting towards the south, a little bit of some back building there. Rainfall over the last hour with this storm, not as high. There's some inch there in the yellow showing up in Gloucester County, but certainly not the high rainfall amounts and rates that we've seen in the areas that have had the warnings. And we'll have to watch what's going on down here in Southampton, southern Suffolk. Again, sort of like southern Chesapeake and southern Virginia Beach, a much more rural part of the city with the cotton fields and stuff out there. So we'll have to see if a flood advisory may be issued for parts of Suffolk, the southern half, maybe extreme northern Gates County, just because of some of those high rainfall rates. So winding things back out, show you that movement. I'll turn off the lightning so you can see it a little bit better Now we have some storms moving from the north. Coming down, we had those thunderstorms down across North Carolina that have sort of redeveloped and pushed off towards the north. So what's going on here is we have a front, a slow-moving front, and this front is producing slow-moving thunderstorms. Since it's not a quick-moving front like we sometimes see, you know, we'll see these big fronts that roll through, producing the big thunderstorms that sort of blow through. None of these storms, for the most part, have been severe. We did have one severe thunderstorm warning earlier in Currituck County. But for the most part, these storms haven't been severe, so they're not producing the gusty winds, but they are producing that heavy rain and the lightning as these storms work their way ever so slowly through Hampton Roads. And that slow-moving front is the reason. Now, by tomorrow morning, that front will be through the area. We'll still have a chance for a few isolated thunderstorms tomorrow. But for the most part, you know, this is going to be an event for this evening as far as the heavy rain. And you can even see, you know, up through parts of the Delmarva, you know, we have some flash flood warnings up around Salisbury too. So it's not just Hampton Roads dealing with this heavy rain and these slow-moving thunderstorms producing, you know, heavy downpours. A few flood advisories back. You can see they're pretty close to expiring here, especially the one north of South Boston. We can check that. So that's going through 7:30, so that's here for another 25 minutes or so. With that flood advisory that is out there, some of the heavy rain that fell earlier, you can see those thunderstorms that sort of gathered across central Virginia, south central Virginia, moving into areas around South Boston, getting into Brunswick County and Mecklenburg County. So the forecast as we go here through the remainder of the evening is going to call for these, you know, thunderstorms coming in. Let's see if this is impacting traffic. It'll take a minute for this to load here. Let's zoom in. And not unsurprisingly, we are seeing, you know, some slowdowns along 64 into Chesapeake, east and westbound around the Greenbrier area. Of course, that's where we've seen, you know, the heavy rain. And also looking at an accident out here, it looks like on 264. Let's see, we'll be able to get information on that. So yes, that's an accident, right lane blocked due to a crash on I-264 westbound at Independence Boulevard. So this is westbound moving from Virginia Beach towards Norfolk. Doesn't look like it's impacting traffic all that much in the area. Certainly a little bit heavier along the boulevard up around Town Center and what's left of Pembroke Mall, the Pembroke area. But again, definitely some slowdowns on 64 moving out of Virginia Beach around Regent University through the Greenbrier area of Chesapeake, all the way down towards 464 and the high-rise bridge. So, you know, undoubtedly it's from the wet weather out there. The heavy rain, you know, just causing people to slow down. This is the road weather index, and it kind of shows us, you know, the dark blues, those are areas more impacted by the heavy rain. Some of the light blues and the greens, some more moderate rain. So that's sort of what's going on. We can add on the radar there, and you can see it sort of, you know, plays out as you would expect. Where we're seeing some of that heaviest of the rain, we are seeing impact. So if you have folks who are leaving a little bit late from work, trying to get home through parts of Chesapeake and Virginia Beach around Kempsville, they might be delayed a little bit because of the heavy rain. So it's not, you know, not unexpected that we are seeing the traffic issues because of some of the heavy rain that is out there. So let's get back to the radar. No new flood advisories or flood warnings out there. These warnings that we have up in place again. I'll zoom in, give you that closer look here, give that to you again. Mainly a little bit of Chesapeake from South Norfolk to Greenbrier over towards Kempsville and Virginia Beach under this flood warning until 9:30, so another 2 hours. The good news is this storm is slowly pushing southward. As we take a look at the movement just over the last hour or so, you can see how it is slowly working its way southward. Certainly seen some heavy rain around the courthouse as the storm is drifting southward into Chesapeake again, around the Kempsville area, Greenbrier, Acredale, right along the Chesapeake, Virginia Beach city line. Let's head out towards the Virginia Beach oceanfront, see what it looks like on our Thompson Creek Window Company sky view. And, light wind coming in, seeing some rain, nobody out there out along the oceanfront this evening. Take a look at some of our other cameras. This is downtown Norfolk, of course. Our camera here on top of the tower at 13 News Now, looking over towards downtown. You can see some of the rain out there. This is on the Jordan Bridge in Chesapeake, between Chesapeake and Portsmouth. So certainly some rain coming down. It looks like it's coming down a little bit heavier, sort of obscuring the views a little bit. Hampton, certainly seeing some wet weather there. Again, that's back to the station, our LFCU camera at Oyster Point and Newport News. You can see some of the dark clouds, but some brightening there as well. And we head down towards Kill Devil Hills, seeing some heavy rain, or seeing some rain out there as we look off towards the Wright Memorial. Getting back to the radar, that heavy rain in Suffolk, that's drifting off towards the south. And then we have those warnings, the advisory and the warning out near the radar site, out near Wakefield. East of Wakefield, we have a flash flood warning because of some of the heavy rain from earlier. And we do have that heavy rain moving down the peninsula right now. Again, stretch from around Norge to Williamsburg, approaching Busch Gardens, over towards Yorktown, Gloucester Point, the Coleman Bridge, and out towards the mouth of the York River, going out into the Chesapeake Bay. And even some heavy rain now approaching the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. Again, not severe, where we haven't seen too many issues with some gusty winds. We'll take a look at some of the storm reports, see if anything has been coming in. And outside of a tree down, it looks like way off towards the north. No reports of any issues out there, at least coming in to the National Weather Service. There is some flooding up towards the north. We had mentioned up around Salisbury, Chesapeake Heights. There has been some flooding up there, and there you can see that report just within the past 15 minutes or so up around Salisbury. Well, we have that flood warning, and then there is some heavy rain just in extreme northern Accomack County, and then as you cross the state line into southern Maryland, around George Island Landing and Snow Hill, we've got some of that heavy rain, and that could clip northern areas of Accomack County as well. For those just joining us, 13 News Now meteorologist Evan Stewart, we're tracking some heavy rain moving through Hampton Roads. We have a couple of flood warnings, a couple of flood advisories. If you've been watching on Channel 13, Wheel of Fortune, you notice that we have the ticker going, the crawl as we officially call it, at the bottom of the screen, talking about some of the strong thunderstorms or heavy downpours that are moving through Hampton Roads. Not a lot of lightning with these storms now. Earlier, we were seeing on the order of 1,200 lightning strikes. Now we're down to about 300. So those lightning strikes have certainly come down, a sign that these storms, as far as the lightning activity and the electrical activity with them, weakening a bit, but they are still, again, producing copious amounts of lightning and heavy rain as they work their way and slowly drift through Hampton Roads again along the edge of that slow-moving backdoor cold front that we were mentioning that will eventually slide through later tonight. And that's the good news, is later tonight and into tomorrow morning, this front will clear the area. We'll get into a little bit less humid air. Still a chance at a couple of isolated showers or thunderstorms into tomorrow afternoon. It won't be nearly as numerous as what we're seeing out there this evening. So diving back into the radar, the areas that are seeing the heaviest of the rain now, where we're talking about some of the traffic impacts along 64, Acredale, Plantation Lake Circle, Centerville Turnpike, near the Centerville Turnpike Bridge, getting over there towards Mount Pleasant Road, Indian River Road, Mapleton. We're getting a little bit more near the amphitheater, the Farmers Market in Virginia Beach, Pleasant Valley Road, getting closer over towards Midway Manor Housing, South Independence, Dahlia, Green Run. Green Run is easy to sort of make out here. It says Mapleton on the map, but here where we have that little circular area, very easy to find on the map. And as we get up here, this is this area right here. That's Lynn Haven Mall, and over towards Oceana. So just now pushing south of Lynn Haven Mall, getting down, as we mentioned, over towards the Virginia Beach Sportsplex and the amphitheater. Lansdowne Road, Princess Anne, getting around the courthouse. So this is sort of the courthouse complex there. Nimmo Parkway, Courthouse Drive, Princess Anne, so the old Princess Anne Courthouse. Getting over towards Chesapeake, getting close to, Fentress Field, some of that heavy rain. Fentress Airfield Road. We mentioned Centerville Turnpike, Volvo Parkway, so around the CBN area. Regent University, that very heavy rain, Larkspur, Pleasant Valley Road, Bellamy Manor, seeing that heavy rain. That's in Virginia Beach. Outside of the warning, there is heavy rain here getting into southern Portsmouth, Academia Park, down into Chesapeake, Camelot, Deep Creek, just east there of Sunray and Bowers Hill, and pushing towards Grassfield and Riverwalk, not quite into Great Bridge. It's raining, but it's not too terribly heavy. Still have that heavy rain here in southern Suffolk, right along the state line and over towards Franklin. Again, no advisories, no warnings, but that is an area that we're going to have to watch. Probably for a flood advisory, just because of, it's a little bit more of a rural area. Rainfall amounts, estimated by radar an inch, inch and a half in the last hour. So that's probably close to borderline for an advisory to be issued. Again, the advisories, it's not just for rainfall rates or rainfall amounts. National Weather Service takes into where it is, the surface conditions. And again, northern Virginia Beach, northern Chesapeake, Norfolk, a lot more pavement. So it doesn't take as much rain to cause the flooding issues. Back up towards the peninsula, we'll dive in here a little bit more and see around Centerville, just north of Williamsburg proper, in the colonial capital. We're seeing some of the heaviest of the rain, Rustic, Highway 5, over towards Centerville Road, Centerville, Edinburgh Drive, Camp Perry, Cheatham Annex, seeing some of that heavy rain as you get down towards Yorktown, Naval Weapons Station there. Cornwallis Cave, of course, that's right there at Yorktown, right along the York River. And the Coleman Bridge there, Yorktown Beach. Heavy rain and just a little bit into Gloucester County. Most of the heaviest of the rain is in James City County and a little bit of York County for that storm. A little bit farther to the south, down across northeastern North Carolina. Around Murfreesboro, Hertford County. Seeing a little bit of that heavy rain up into Como. Again, right along the county line, we were mentioning earlier, southern Suffolk, northern Gates County, around Topsy, Wyanoke, Jernigan Lane, Reynoldson Road over towards Reynoldson, Drum Hill. You work your way down Highway 13 through Gates County and into Hertford County, crossing over the Chowan River. So those are the areas seeing some of the heaviest of the rain. We had heavy rain earlier. I'll take you back here. I had some big thunderstorms. Let's do the last 6 hours. And, we had some really heavy rain and a lot of lightning earlier that was developing here around the Albemarle-Pamlico Peninsula between the Albemarle and Pamlico Sound. So Dare, Washington, Terrell, and Hyde counties saw some of that very heavy rain. And we've been seeing some of the showers down, now through the Pamlico, down towards Cape Hatteras. So not as heavy as what we were seeing earlier. Of course, as I mentioned, we had that severe thunderstorm warning that popped up for parts of Currituck County. You can just watch again here. Saw that thunderstorm sort of fire up here right around the Currituck Sound, include a little bit of southern Virginia Beach, Knott's Island, around Moyock. And you can maybe even see another one of those little outflow boundaries, that line that sort of worked its way off towards the north. There, let's see if I can stop it in there. And right through there, you can see what I was talking about earlier. have this outflow boundary right here, coming from the storms to the north, this little one here. So we would expect some fire up of some thunderstorms right here, and sure enough, they sort of come together, and that's where we see those storms fire up and ended up prompting these flash flood warning here through northern Virginia Beach. That runs until 9:30. So this is radar indicated because of the heavy rain. The update as of about 20 minutes ago, 2 to 3 inches of rain have fallen. Another 1 to 2 inches are possible in the next 30 minutes. And that's why we have the possibility of some flooding. Haven't seen any official reports coming in of some flooding. Checking a few other sources, not seeing any reports of flooding there either. The storm reports, nothing coming in, but I know it is certainly impacting some traffic out there on I-64 in Chesapeake. So what are things looking like as we go here through the remainder of the evening? So let's sort of walk you through that here with Futurecast. Take you back here and just sort of, here's where we are, getting on into this, 7:15 hour. Next couple of hours, we'll still see some scattered showers and storms around, but by about 11 o'clock, a lot of this activity will start to diminish. Again, we are under a weather impact alert officially until about 9 o'clock or so. By then, a lot of this thunderstorm activity will start to be on the wane, will start to wane, and certainly by about 10, 11 o'clock, we'll see things quieting down, and overnight take you into tomorrow morning here, 6 a.m. Temperatures in the 70s, things clearing out. We'll be on the cooler side of the front, maybe a few lingering showers across coastal North Carolina, and then as we go through the afternoon, temperatures warming up into the mid-80s. There will be a couple of isolated showers with thunderstorms into the afternoon in a few spots. Doesn't look to be too terribly widespread tomorrow afternoon, so I don't think we'll see nearly as much activity around the area as what we saw this afternoon. Which is certainly some good news, and that really does take us into a nice weekend. So as we advance into Friday evening, looking nice. So we go into Saturday morning. Looking at temperatures in the 70s, a few clouds around, partly cloudy into the afternoon, and on Sunday we're looking at highs right around 83, 84 degrees for Saturday. And then into Sunday, mostly sunny, starting out in the mid-70s. Sort of give you that weekend preview here. Saturday, 84, partly cloudy, some clouds in the morning, low-end rain chances on Saturday. And then in the Sunday, looking at a high temperature of 85 degrees and mostly sunny. So I mentioned the weather impact alert. We do have a flood watch for the peninsula south side and northeastern North Carolina. That runs until 2 a.m. Friday. So that runs until the middle of the night tonight. I think the biggest threat will be done again by about 10:30 or so. That official weather impact alert we have running through 9 p.m. We'll give you that here and show you that the potential for those heavy downpours, flooding, and stay weather aware. And you are staying weather aware by watching us here, streaming on 13 News Now Plus. Again, a couple of flash flood warnings, a couple of flash flood flood advisories in the area for this heavy rain that continues to fall in parts of Hampton Roads. Not everybody is seeing the rain. Certainly, in some ways, it's welcome rain. We're fortunately not in a drought situation. We are a little dry as of the latest drought monitor that came in across the Middle Peninsula, Northern Neck, and the Eastern Shore. That's really the only drought conditions here through Virginia and North Carolina. So certainly, if we get a little bit of rain, not a bad thing. Certainly more drought conditions in other parts of the country, and certainly the West dealing with that extreme drought. So back towards our radar again, certainly could use some rain up along the Eastern Shore and the Middle Peninsula, and we're getting a little bit there. Not as much along the Eastern Shore as we're seeing through a few parts of the Middle Peninsula, and especially into the peninsula around York County now. James City County as well, Williamsburg. Rainfall, again last hour, some of those pockets, a little bit of an inch or so there in Gloucester. The 3-hour rainfall amounts, an inch in Gloucester or so. You can see other areas certainly where we've got, some of that heavier rain, 3.5 inches, right around Wakefield along 460 there, and extreme northeastern Surrey County, or northeastern Sussex County, southern Surrey County, northern Southampton and central Isle of Wight County, even pushing close to Smithfield, getting close to 2 inches of rain there with this, heavy rain and the thunderstorms that have been moving through. As we head a little bit farther to the south, again, you can see here around the Virginia Beach Courthouse, some of the estimates there around Oceana, 3 inches or so. So let's actually pull up, what the actual observed rainfall is coming from the official sites here around Hampton Roads. So this is usually at all the airports. And you can see officially Oceana picking up 1.58. So maybe just that one little area, where Oceana actually is, where the sensor is not quite, it hasn't been quite as heavy. Not exactly sure where the official sensor is there at Oceana. So it's usually pretty close to the runway, but you can see just that difference here, as you get towards Hornet Drive and a little bit farther to the south, 3.5 inches of rain, but you get, the northern end of Oceana, radar estimate close to an inch. So if that rain gauge, and the sensor is a little bit closer into here, that's why it would, 1.5 inches of rain. So to, or that's what it's looking like. We'll widen the view back out. Any other areas that sort of stand out? Again, we'll have to watch still that some of that heavy rain in southern Suffolk for maybe a flood advisory to be issued, because they're along 13 around Whaley and Whaleyville. 2 inches of rain, so that probably getting close to the criterion needed for a flood advisory. Again, it's different for different parts of the city and different cities here in Hampton Roads. And let's see if that is a flood advisory for Suffolk. That literally just came in. And no, this is actually, let's see. So this is actually, we were talking about the storm earlier that was up across the eastern shore, extreme northern Accomack County. So that's a brand new flood advisory there. Let's check the 1 hour rainfall totals there. Again, you can see 2.5 inches of rain. 3 hour doesn't update as frequently as the 1 hour. But again, that is a brand new flood advisory for Accomack and Worcester County up in the Maryland. That runs until 10:30, so another 3 hours. Radar estimates between 1.5 and 2.5 inches of rain have fallen, another 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches. Pocomoke City, Horntown, New Church, Greenbackville, and Beaver Dam, where we could see some of the heaviest of the rain. So that is a brand new, again, flood advisory that's been issued up along the eastern shore. Thought it might have been the one in Southampton County that we've been talking about it, or Suffolk, excuse me. Although there is some heavy rain into Southampton County too, and around Franklin. So right along the state line and the county lines there, and the city line of Franklin, Southampton County, and the city of Suffolk. A little bit of some heavy rain, through downtown Suffolk, and we'll have to watch even over here, Sussex County, extreme northern Southampton County, just north of Joyner and Seabrill, along 35, some heavy rain there. If this storm doesn't move very much, we could have a flood advisory issued for that area as well. So the big story has been the heavy rain that we've seen across the area and continue to see working its way into parts of Hampton Roads. We had the flood watch out, we had the weather impact alert for the potential for this heavy rain. We thought it would be close to rush hour, a little bit afterwards, and that's certainly where we've seen some of the heaviest of this rain developing this afternoon and this evening. And while we're doing this coverage here on 13 News Now Plus, thank you for joining us. Of course, coming up here in about a half hour, we will have Hurricane Hub Live. That is the latest. Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandagis will have the latest on what's going on with Aaron while I've been streaming here. He's been putting together a lot of graphics for, explain what's going on right now with Aaron. Hurricane Hunter aircraft are in the storm right now. We have seen some flight level winds over hurricane strength. Whether that translates down towards the ground, we'll have to see. There might be an 8 o'clock update from the National Hurricane Center just in case they are seeing the storm starting to strengthen. So if you stay with us here for another half hour, we'll have Hurricane Hub Live. And again, the latest on what's going on in the tropics and the latest on what's going on with Tropical Storm Aaron, which could become, or will become our next hurricane. Let's go ahead and give you the 5 o'clock update on that. Again, winds of 60 miles per hour, and that forecast track carries it off towards the northwest. And you can see there by Sunday becoming a major hurricane north of Puerto Rico, and then starting that turn to the north on Monday. And of course, the big question will be, when does this turn occur? Will it be a little bit later, which would bring the storm closer to the east coast? Or will it be a little bit farther to the east? Just about all the computer models are calling for it to split somewhere between Hatteras and Bermuda. The exact question right now is where will that be? And that would be, a week from now. So the Hurricane Center only does a forecast out to 5 hours, or 5 days rather. So that would sort of be in this circular area right through here. Storm could be anywhere in that circle. If there was a 7-day forecast, it would probably bring it more up into here. But again, that cone of uncertainty would be very, very wide. So again, Tim Pandagis will have the latest on what's going on with Aaron here in about another half hour on Hurricane Hub Live. Right now, as we were talking, expected a flood advisory issued for southern Suffolk and a little bit of Southampton County, and sure enough, one has been issued for Suffolk, Gates, Hertford, and Southampton County until 10:30. So we were watching those rainfall rates, seeing those rainfall rates go up, and sure enough, we have that brand new flood advisory. Thought that we were getting close to that criteria for a flood advisory. Again, with some of those rainfall rates over 2 inches now, just within the past hour, that's getting close to that criteria, and that's why we now have that brand new flood advisory. So not unexpected, based on what we were analyzing with the radar and some of those rainfall rates. So we gave you that sort of first alert, so to speak, of what's going on with the heavy rain there, parts of Southampton County, Suffolk, around Franklin, northern Gates County, and northern Hertford County. So that means in our area now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different advisories out there, flood warnings and flood advisories. And the heavy rain that is moving into the area with these slow moving thunderstorms. The next area that I'm watching closely is going to be the peninsula. The 1 hour rainfall rates there starting to tick up a little bit, getting close to an inch. Here where we see these yellow areas, 1.25 inches, over an inch around Yorktown. So if this slow moving thunderstorm continues to be a slow moving thunderstorm and it doesn't move very much here, we could see a flood advisory or a flood warning issued for the peninsula, probably a flood advisory. The good news with this storm is it is moving slowly, but it is moving. But again, this is an area that we're going to have to watch closely as we go here over the next few hours across the peninsula and the middle peninsula around the York River. Checking out some of my other sources here on radar. And a lot of folks ask me what app do I use. You know, of course, we use the 13 News Now app on our phones to get a lot of the advisories and the alerts, but also radar scope is a good one to kind of track thunderstorms and see how things are developing. We do have let's get that discussion up here, and just talking about the potential for some heavy rain across the area. And that's why we have that flood watch. Mentioned it earlier, South Side Peninsula, northeastern North Carolina. We'll go back to the map here, and you can see where the flood watch is. That runs until 2 a.m. I think, again, by about 10:30, 11 o'clock, a lot of this heaviest of the rain will be winding down. So let's go ahead, sort of reset here. It is just after 7:30, 7:34. Kind of recap what's going on. We have some very slow-moving thunderstorms producing heavy rain across Hampton Roads, and we have numerous flood advisories and flood warnings that are out for Hampton Roads. So if you're just joining us here streaming on 13 News Now Plus, that's what we're tracking, is heavy rain in the area. We had the weather impact alert, issued it yesterday for the potential for this heavy rain from slow-moving thunderstorms, and that's what we're seeing here as we've gone from around rush hour, and it's really started lighting up within the last hour and a half or so with some of this heavy rain. So sort of give you that radar preview and talk about what's going on as far as the advisories and the warnings. We have a flood advisory for extreme northern Accomack County. I mean, we're talking just a few square miles. I can, kind of give you that idea right now. We're here 9 miles east and west and 3 miles north-south, so 27 square miles of Accomack County under that flood advisory, so not a lot, mainly around signposts, but it does, and include areas getting up here around Franklin City, Snixon, Jolly Roger Drive, Captain's Corridor, Fleming Road, Red Hills Road, Signpost Road over towards Bishop Road, and of course 13, and getting close to Wallops Flight Facility. So that is drifting towards the south, approaching Wallops Flight Facility and over towards Chincoteague. And so around Chincoteague, the Bateman Educational and Administrative Center, Tom's Cove Visitor Center, all right, there around Chincoteague and Assateague Island. So just north of there. So that's one flood advisory. And then as we get here into the south side, nothing on the peninsula right now, even though we have some heavy rain. Would not be surprised if a flood advisory is issued for James City County, York County, maybe a little bit of Newport News, Williamsburg. But going to the south side, have a couple of alerts out for Virginia Beach and Chesapeake, a little bit of Norfolk until 9:30. That's a flash flood warning. Haven't seen any reports of some flooding there, but certainly those reports of the heavy rain. Flood advisory going into southern Chesapeake, southern Virginia Beach, extreme northern Currituck County. Got the flood advisory for that just came out. That was the one we were watching. We were expecting it here for Gates, Hertford, Southampton, and Suffolk. A flood warning for Isle of Wight, Southampton, Surrey, and Sussex counties, and then a flood advisory for Prince George, Surrey, and Sussex County. So we'll start to sort of wrap things up here with our coverage of some of this heavy rain. Again, more flood advisories, maybe some additional flash flood warnings coming up here over the next couple of hours. Again, I'm going to wrap things up here as we are approaching now 7:37, but coming up in just about 20 minutes, Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandagis will be in, and he will have Hurricane Hub Live. So all the latest on what's going on with Tropical Storm Erin. Hurricane Hunter aircraft are in the storm right now, sampling the atmosphere around the storm, seeing what the strongest winds are with Erin. So coming up here in just a little more than 20 minutes, we'll have Hurricane Hub Live streaming here on 13 News Now Plus. For now, Meteorologist Evan Stewart here with your weather impact alert coverage on 13 News Now Plus.